Well, good Tuesday afternoon. We have a beautiful day in progress. You can see here on the visible satellite channel that there are some high clouds streaming in, but for the most part, we are sunny and warm this afternoon. We've gotten really lucky this weekend. We had a 3-day weekend, and it was really nice just about every day. There's a current temperatures 55 on the Anderson-Franklin County line, 57 down in Harrodsburg. So it is a nice day out there today. Once again, no snow to be seen. Here's the European model run from today. Excuse me, there had a little issue there, but this is the European model run from today, and we'll take a look at at least what it's showing for the next 7 days. We'll talk about that a little more here in just a minute, but anyhow, we have this weak disturbance cruising through in the flow tonight, and so the clouds will probably be on the increase tonight, and we may have a few sprinkles in the morning. Let's go over here to dawn in the morning. Of course, by then you can see it's pretty much broken up. There wasn't really much to begin with, but by the time we get to dawn in the morning, it's pretty much broken up, and what's left of it has moved on off to the east, so very inconsequential. Not something that's going to cause a school cancellation by any means, just a weak system cruising through in the flow, and then tomorrow afternoon we go completely dry once again. Flip over here to the temperature chart, see what we got for temperatures. I believe we're going to make it back to the 40s again tomorrow. Oh yeah, back into the 40s again tomorrow. In fact, that's kind of the story for the rest of the week. Highs in the 40s, below freezing at night, highs in the 40s. That's very typical for this time of year, so no surprises there, and no weather systems really to speak of either as we head into the latter part of the week here. So European models keeping us high and dry. GFS model I looked at earlier today, and it was showing pretty much the same scenario, so at least there's some agreement there. That's a good thing. Now, going into the end of the week, this is that weather system that we were talking about in the weather video blog last week, the big storm down on the Gulf Coast. And let me zoom out here just a touch, because I want to talk about this a little more. Oh my goodness, I zoomed out way too much. Let's get back in here to North America, shall we? So we can see what's going on here. But last week we talked about this big storm on the Gulf Coast, and in the GFS model there was another storm that was brewing up in the Great Lakes region up here, and the run from today is not really picking up on that northern stream storm. Now, the 0 Zulu run from last night was still showing it, but today's 12Z run has kind of lost it. Remember, we talked about if those two storms were to merge soon enough, we could get a big snowstorm maybe here in Kentucky, and if they merged a little bit later, we would have a big nor'easter that would pound New England out here. But it's not even really picking up on a northern stream storm now. So the southern storm will then just kind of turn the corner and head up the coast on its own without having a buddy up here to merge with, and so that kind of allows it to turn north a little bit sooner. Now, you can see here the northern fringe of the precip shield is affecting parts of Kentucky. If we get some cold air in here, we could still see some snow, say in Somerset over toward Pikeville. You know, mostly the southeastern counties of Kentucky would be affected by this. That's a possibility, but you know, we'll just have to wait and see on that. And then as we head on into the later part of the weekend, this Clipper, a textbook Alberta Clipper, may try to get its act together. You can see it here. Sunday morning, wee hours of the morning, it's already churning up in Alberta, and then it comes streaming down into the plains, and then eventually makes its way directly into the bluegrass state. So there's another system to keep an eye on. You know, if this thing takes a more southerly track, as it's being shown here in the GFS model, it kind of brings the load directly over western Kentucky, then we'd be looking at a good shot at some precip here in the Bluegrass State for Monday morning. I think in the next 10 to 14 days, this is probably the only good shot at maybe a snow day here in Kentucky. So, it's far enough out in the future that it's not even a definite, of course, but it's our only shot, so we'll keep our fingers crossed there. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, the computer models have been doing a terrible job this year, just absolutely terrible. In fact, I've never seen them this bad during a winter or summer season. Usually the transitional seasons, spring and fall, those are the seasons when the models kind of struggle because it's a transitional season and you've got, the sun's angle directly overhead and you've got air masses fighting each other, and it makes it a little more difficult to nail down, exactly what's going to happen. But when you're in the middle of summer, the middle of winter, it's usually the computer models are rock solid during those seasons. This year, winter has not been that way at all. And I was thinking about that today, and I think what's going on here is, at least part of it is that the computer models are programmed to kind of look at history. If you've had a history professor say this before, that history repeats itself. That's one of the bases of the computer models, that they look at what happened in the past. When you have a weather map that looks the way that it looks, okay, how did these things end up playing out in the past with these systems? If you had a similar setup, what happened in history, and then it'll take that and kind of use that to predict how these weather systems are going to move and how things are going to flow and the effect that it's going to have on our weather in various parts of the country. Well, this winter we've had things going on that have never happened before. I mentioned this in the weather blog last week that there's never been in recorded history a December and January with no snowfall recorded at the Lexington official weather station, and for that matter the Louisville station hasn't recorded any snow officially either. And I think it's only happened one other time at the Louisville station, and that was about 86 years ago. So this is uncharted territory here. We've never seen this happen before. The specific way the pattern is set up right now, that we're getting some cold air, we're getting some shots of cold air, but we're not getting any precipitation to go with it. The southern branch of the jet screaming through here is just really active. It's preventing any blocking from going on in the upper pattern, and we're just not getting any snow at all. It's a very strange setup, and I think since there's nothing to go on, the computer models just don't really know what to do with this. They're having a really hard time picking up on this pattern and how this is going to evolve. So I think that's probably part of it, at least, what's going on here. You can see this jet stream here just screaming out to the south. So anyway, we will see how this goes. Small chance of snow Saturday, small chance of snow Sunday night. Otherwise, looking dry. Have a good Tuesday.